This is Escape Stories. Welcome to the Crime Visual Podcast. Real stories, real shadows. Let's begin. Imagine a city choked by shadows, where the very air you breathe carries the scent of fear. 1888, London's East End. By day, a symphony of struggle. By night, a canvas for something far more sinister. What began as whispers in the fog would soon become screams echoing through the ages. What was it that turned these cobblestone alleys into a stage for unimaginable horror? For Whitechapel was no mere collection of brick and grime. It was a living entity, its narrow thoroughfares the very veins through which flowed the ceaseless suffering of the forgotten. By the harsh glare of day, a clamorous din arose. The iron-shod hooves of horses upon the unforgiving cobbles, the hawkers' strident cries piercing the miasma, the relentless clang of industry forging its grim wares. As twilight descended, a sinister metamorphosis occurred. The gas lamps, few and far between, sputtered like the final breaths of the consumptive, casting elongated, dancing specters that writhed with secrets older than the city's ancient stones. Each night, the fog rolled in, like a silent predator, its tendrils snaking through the labyrinthine alleys, muffling the desperate footfalls of the damned. It stole into every fissure and crack, transforming familiar pathways into a bewildering maze of dread and uncertainty. The East End was no stranger to the depredations of man. Thieves slithering in the darkness, painted women plying their sorrowful trade, gaunt drunkards swaying in their stupor, and the countless destitute souls eking out a meager existence formed the wretched pulse of this forsaken place. But what transpired in the waning days of that Ilman summer would transcend the petty cruelties of everyday life, etching itself into the annals of horror as a legend whispered in hushed tones, a nightmare made flesh. What unseen presence began to stalk these fog-laden streets? Then, one grim morning, under a pallid moon, a humble cart driver on his early rounds stumbled upon a sight that would curdle the very blood in his veins. On the unforgiving stones of Box Row lay a woman, broken and still. Marianne Nichols, or Polly, as she was known to the few who might have spared her a moment's kindness. She was a woman worn down by hardship, her beauty long since faded. But it wasn't just death that lay before him. It was something else. 2 savage slashes across her throat, deep enough to chill the soul. And lower still, a mutilation so vicious, so devoid of human compassion, that the very air seemed to recoil in horror. Yet, there was no outcry, no evidence of a struggle. It was as if the angel of death himself had descended in the swirling fog, his touch a silent blade wielded by a hand that knew precisely how to extinguish a soul without a whimper. What manner of beast could inflict such precise brutality? The fog had swallowed him whole, leaving only the stark, brutal reality. Mary Smith, a local resident, was one of the first to see the body of the poor girl. Let's listen to her testimony.
Oh, it's dreadful, truly dreadful. Just down the road, they say. Poor Polly. You try to keep to yourself, earn an honest shilling if you can, but it feels like the very stones are unsafe now. My man, he tells me to stay indoors after dark, but what choice do we have? The rent. It waits for no one. And now, this. It makes a body shiver to think what walks these streets at night.
The fear, raw and immediate, began to seep into the very fabric of Whitechapel life. The discovery of Annie Chapman on the 8th of September only intensified this growing dread. Found in the cramped confines of a backyard in Hanbury Street, her fate was even more grotesque. Ripped open with a savage fury, Her very organs had been removed with a chilling precision. This time, the horror was amplified, the wounds speaking of a knowledge, a purpose, that chilled investigators to their very core. This wasn't random violence. This was a terrifying signature. Who possessed such anatomical knowledge? A surgeon turned fiend? A butcher whose trade had twisted into something monstrous? The authorities were baffled, the very nature of the crimes defying easy understanding. Then came a night of unimaginable terror. A night that proved this was no ordinary killer. The 30th of September witnessed what would become known as the attack. Double event. Piana. First, Elizabeth Stride was found in Dutfield's yard, her throat slashed, yet strangely, the rest of her body untouched. Had the darkness been disturbed? Had the killer been interrupted in his gruesome work? Barely an hour later, a mere 10-minute walk away, Catherine Eddowes was discovered in Mitre Square. Her face, a canvas of unimaginable violence. Her body, eviscerated with terrifying efficiency. A part of her ear missing, and more vital organs taken. 2 souls extinguished within the span of an hour. Each scene a testament to a horrifying efficiency. But with that crucial difference in the first. What had startled the unseen terror that night, and what drove him to such contrasting acts of violence? And now the testimony of another lady living in the area where all these brutal murders took place, Mrs. Catherine Bellingham.
It's like a plague upon us, this horrible thing. It's 2 in one night. It's beyond comprehension. The police, they're like shadows themselves, never where they need to be. We bar our doors, huddle together, but you can feel it in the air, can't you? This darkness. It doesn't care if you're old or young, good or bad. We're all just waiting to see who it will take next. And you can't help but think, will it be me?
The terror, now a palpable presence, choked the very air of Whitechapel. Fear became a tangible entity. Women dared not walk alone after the fall of dusk, some clutching meager defenses against the unseen terror. The already sparsely populated lodging houses emptied out with the setting sun, their inhabitants huddling together in fear. In this maelstrom of terror, the police struggled, their every move shadowed by the killer's phantom presence. Inspector Frederick Aberline became the face of the desperate investigation, a man familiar with the dark arteries of the East End, yet even his knowledge seemed insufficient to penetrate the fog of mystery. Over 2,000 souls were questioned, 80 detained, yet the phantom remained elusive. Just when the terror seemed to reach its peak, a new, unsettling element emerged. Letters, taunting, chilling missives that seemed to mock the very authorities tasked with stopping the bloodshed. "Dear boss," one began, filled with a ghastly boastfulness. And then a package, addressed to George Lusk, leader of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. It contained a gruesome offering, half a human kidney, preserved in spirits. The accompanying note, scrawled in a feverish hand, spoke of a descent from hell. What was the meaning behind these macabre communications? Were they the genuine taunts of a madman, or the cruel hoaxes of someone reveling in the city's fear? Then came the 9th of November, and with it, a horror that eclipsed all that had come before. Mary Jane Kelly, barely 25 years old, was found in the confines of her own room in Miller's Court. Here, within the supposed sanctuary of four walls, The killer had taken his time. Her body was not merely slain, it was butchered beyond recognition, a grotesque tableau of unimaginable violence. Even the hardened constables, men who had witnessed the grim realities of the East End for years, wept openly at the sheer, unmitigated horror. And then silence. As abruptly as it had begun, the reign of terror ceased. Why? Did he die? Did he vanish into the fog from whence he came? Was his dark purpose finally fulfilled? The silence that followed was deafening, pregnant with unanswered questions.
They say it's over, that he's gone. But how can we be sure? Every shadow still seems to hold a threat. You try to be brave, you tell yourself it's finished, but then you see another woman walking alone in the fog, and your heart just... it clenches. We have to look out for each other, the women here. The police, they haven't helped us. We're all we have, and we'll not forget what happened here, not ever.
The silence that followed the last horrific act was not one of peace, but of a lingering unease, a deep-seated fear that the darkness might return. The Metropolitan Police faced a foe, unlike any they had encountered before. No forensic science to speak of, no fingerprinting, no concept of modern crime scene preservation. They patrolled the fog-choked streets with lanterns and batons, hoping against hope for a chance encounter. Maps were drawn, patterns sought, but the killer's movements remained frustratingly random. Even psychic investigators were consulted in the desperate search for answers, their pronouncements adding only another layer of confusion. The press, meanwhile, became a relentless force, their headlines screaming, their criticism biting. Commissioner Warren eventually resigned, the weight of the unsolved horrors too heavy to bear. Modern profilers, peering back through the mists of time, paint a picture of an organized killer, perhaps with knowledge of anatomy, driven by a deep-seated rage or a terrifying delusion. The escalating brutality, the precise mutilations, suggest a mind descending further into darkness. But what truly drove this unseen terror? Hatred, madness, a twisted sense of ritual. The answers remain elusive, locked within the mind of a phantom who vanished as silently as he arrived. The Whitechapel horrors left an indelible scar on London, on the very understanding of crime itself. It birthed a myth, a terrifying archetype that continues to fascinate and disturb. The name eventually given to the killer became synonymous with unseen evil, a bogeyman lurking in the shadows of our collective imagination. Over a century has passed, and the books, the documentaries, the tours, they all seek the same elusive truth. The canonical 5 victims remain etched in history, but were there others? Martha Tabron, Alice Mackenzie, Francis Coles, their fates intertwined with the same dark mystery. Was it one man, or a confluence of terror, amplified by fear and the insatiable hunger of the press? Whitechapel today bears the marks of progress, yet the echoes of its grim past linger. The 10 Bells pub still stands, the ghost of Miller's Court is still walked. The very air seems to hold a whisper of the terror that once gripped these streets. So, we return to the beginning, to those whispers in the fog. We've walked the shadowed alleys, witnessed the terror, and pondered the possibilities. But the ultimate question remains, hanging heavy in the air, as thick and impenetrable as the Victorian smog itself. Who was the architect of this nightmare? What name lies buried beneath the weight of over a century of speculation? Perhaps this murderous hand has been fooling us all, even signing one of the letters sent, while the police were groping in the dark. His name, now a guarantee of evil. Jack the Ripper. This is Escape Stories. Welcome to the Crime Visual Podcast, Real stories, real shadows.